Hello fellow YouTubers, welcome back to YouTube Gaming Community number 130. So, take a few extra days off and man, there's a lot to cover. So let's get to the videos because there's a lot of topics in the videos I shout out to talk about. So the first one is from DSPGaming ALERT. Protect IP bill is worse than S978 and being rushed. Now first of all, this bill has already been passed one half of the Congress in the United States currently. Now, before you all say, well, why should I care? I don't live in the United States. First of all, Google, Twitter, Facebook, all these companies are based in the United States, so this will affect them. And remember this, when it comes to laws that are passed, when one country passes it, the other countries look at it, and the very same thing could happen to where you live at. Now, one of the things that currently happens here in the United States, and I know it happens in other countries, is when a bill dies that a certain party or a certain group think they want to pass badly, they don't give up. That bill dies off, and what they do is they rebrand it. They change the name, they make it sound like this one, Protect IP Bill. It sounds pretty good. And then they reword it a little bit, they change the penalties a little bit, but essentially it's the same bill. And they try to ram it through again. They try to get the public not to pay attention to it. They try to get the other people who vote against it to go, hey, on paper this sounds really good, and the way they explain it sounds really good. There's a lot of reasons why this stuff gets through. The public doesn't care. The public think they won the fight. The politicians, to be honest, their lackeys do all the work, so their lackeys write up a little briefing on what it is, and then they just go with whatever that is. They have lobbyists, companies, people who give them a lot of money to vote a certain way. Or let's go with a company. So a company's lobbyist goes to a politician. They say, hey, if you vote this bill in, we will give you 100% backing on this bill that you want. That we're kind of iffy on, but you know what? You pass this, we'll take the risk over here. Or here's a big campaign donation. Because, be honest, most politicians are about power and greed. They really don't care about you anymore. They like to make you think you do. And so, this IP bill is just another bill that the RIAA, which is, RA to me is just, you'd call it a mob in a different form, but it's just a mob, and the music industry want to get through. Because basically if Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, if somebody posts a copyrighted picture or a video, then the website gets shut down or gone after. That essentially, copyright in general, this is my problem, okay? So along in the 80s, people used to copy tapes all the time, right? When music was on tape. And they couldn't win the fight, so they didn't. But today, they're not stopping. I mean, when Napster originally existed, the music industry had a great vehicle to take their business to the internet. That at one point, these companies, maybe not Napster, but these other companies that they've forced out of business had come to them, how much do we need to pay you a song that's reasonable to keep our business going and that you make money? And they didn't want it. They shut them down. They wanted an insane amount of money. You know, for all you who may or may not like Apple, you know, one of the things that Steve Jobs did, the music industry came to Steve Jobs like a year or two after YouTube was popular, and they wanted him to raise the price of a song. And he told them no. See, the music industry is about greed these days. They want, like the CD, right? CD prices are crazy. They're ridiculous. 20 bucks for a CD. The music industry could have early on, see the problem is they're legacy businesses. They don't understand the internet. They want to shut it down. The same thing with politicians. They don't understand the internet. They don't like the fact that you have the freedom to say what you want. They like things that are controlled. They like things that they can control, and they know what the outcome's going to be. With the internet, they do not know. This allows people to talk about anything and realize, hey, you know what? I'm not alone anymore, and I thought I was. And that scares them. That scares old business knowing that the internet, that they're running on an old business model and that their time is numbered. It's just simple as that. Their time is numbered. TV stations are scared because at some point they're going to have to compete against the internet. And the people are like, do I want to listen to this guy in the news who's just some guy with an agenda or just told to follow a certain, you know, thing for this political party, or do I want a guy on the internet who speaks his honest mind and you know where he stands? He doesn't lie to you. It's like, you know that this guy stands for this. And so when you watch him, you know that's his opinion. So I've talked enough about that. Watch the video. It's 26 minutes long. It's very, very detailed, not only about the bill, but the whole process and what happens in the politics. So our next video to talk about is from AlphaOmegaSin. Nintendo loses $926 million this year. Now, first of all, I'm not surprised Nintendo lost money. I was more surprised to read that it's been 30 years since Nintendo had a year where they're losing money. Since 1981. That is for any business, that is one heck of a run. Now, for Nintendo losing money, I'm going to say this simply. To me, Nintendo, during the GameCube and now, it seems like, simply put, they got their nuts cut off. That's the only way I can describe it. Somebody cut their nuts off. Because the Wii came out, it was hugely popular, and they could have pushed out games left and right and made money. Any of their franchises they could have pushed out, and they didn't. They keep releasing the same games over and over again. You can only do that so long before people want something new. The Wii, the mistake early on was not having the choice of the motion controller or the classic controller to play the games. Now, for the Wii U, I do think some of this is going to be solved because I think, number one, Nintendo only showed the controller at E3. They want to see the reaction. They saw the reaction. They saw how people reacted to it. And I think Nintendo is going to make changes based on those reactions. I think Nintendo wants this next generation to have the hardcore and the casual. How to do that? How to make publishers put their game on their system? They need to take a page from Microsoft and Sony. First of all, they need to get with the online multimedia stuff. 1. 2, they need to gobble up some big exclusive games. They need to go get the big games that people play that are traditional Nintendo games. Or what they could have done with the Wii, which I thought was another thing they missed, was that because the PS3 and the 360 just simply seem to not be home for arcade racers, did not seem to be home for shmups, Nintendo could have been the champion of that with their games, and I think it would have helped them out a lot. If they had a classic controller, of course. But the 3DS, for example, Omega AlphaSin made a very great point, was that if they had released the system in the holiday season, and if they had brought out Zelda and Mario at the same time, imagine how crazy people would have gone for that system, or just had a better lineup. The other thing Nintendo has to do with the 3DS, in my opinion, to solve this problem is make games that are not 3D for the 3DS and say, this is a more powerful DS, that some games will have 3D, but you don't need it. Tell the publishers and the people who play the games, you don't have to make 3D. It was a gimmick. We thought it would work. It didn't. We failed. Let's go to what people want, and that is a more powerful DS. That's what this is. Nintendo has a lot of deep problems. It's not one problem with Nintendo. Nintendo is slowly, I mean, they're not there yet, but they're slowly starting down the path of what Sega did and other companies that they're so confident of their franchise and everything else, and that if they don't change their path now, they could head down the path of being out of the hardware market eventually. And it's funny because people want their franchises. People would love for them to release limited editions. They're just asking for Nintendo to do it so they can give them their money. They want to give Nintendo their money. But Nintendo right now is running simply on nostalgia, the past. And they have to be with the future. And it's funny because when you look at the past, the NES, the Super Nintendo, Nintendo released a lot of different kind of games. They need to get back to that. You can release your Mario and your Zelda, but you need to release new stuff to get me excited to play your console, especially for the Wii. No one was making games for the Wii. They needed to step up, and they didn't. So we'll see what happens with Nintendo. Again, I'm all for buying a 3DS, and I'm thinking about it, but Nintendo has to give me a reason, and the games are a problem. And one last thing about Nintendo, one of the arguments they made that made me laugh was they said they couldn't keep up with making games for the DS and the 3DS and the Wii. And it's like, hold on, you haven't been releasing that many games. How can you not be able to produce games for all these systems? First of all, one of the things that cracked me up when I went to Best Buy, when we had reward money left because for points there, and so my wife picked up Professor Layton, the new one. And the guy at Best Buy told her, this will probably be the last major release on the DS. I'm thinking, are you serious? The Game Boy Advance games are being made at least 2 years out after the DS Lite was released. Why would Nintendo or third-party developers not release games for this game? I know people who are buying their DS right now for the first time, brand new, that have little kids because they don't want to strain their eyes with the 3D. that's just not asking to make money. So, real quickly, my topic with Halloween for you guys is, what is your favorite Halloween themed game? Or one of your favorite Halloween themed games. Not that you play on Halloween, but in general. It could be Pac-Man, they're ghosts. It could be Castlevania, which is one of my favorites. It could be the new Ghostbusters that came out on the 360, based off the movie with all the people in the movie. So those are the three main topics. Leave comments about any one of the three or all of them if you want to. I will read definitely some of them in the next video. So next up is ArcadeMameMachine, a new logo bead Sprite. So this is a really cool Sprite. It is almost a keyboard size sign of Nintendo's logo. It's really awesome. Check it out. Next up is TVandLust. It's dangerous to go alone. So one of his older hobbies used to be he used to like to paint. This is the second video game painting he's done, and this one is of Zelda. Really awesome painting. You should go check it out. It's really cool. Next up is Lorfarius NES-Bit Magazine System finally launches. So this is a magazine that is on online form and in magazine form. If you want to check the video out, there are links below where to check out the magazine. Next up is SLgamingblog Tag Friday Most overlooked game coming out this holiday season. Which, of course, with so many games coming out week to week to week, what game do you think is most overlooked? And either leave a comment or a video response to his video. Next up is Chipsturs, Mad James, and the Nightmare of Nobby. A fun, kind of scary, kind of funny video. Kind of along the lines of, like, if you've seen Gamesters holiday videos and stuff. Really cool video. You should really check it out. Next up, GamingHistorySource. Let's compare Joust. So what he does is he compares all 21 home versions of Joust. Really cool if you have never seen them all or want to see them compared together. Next up is JillPooThree, a spooking unboxing thanks to advanced ant. So he's doing a really spooky setting for this unboxing. You'd have to check out what it is. It's really cool. And next up is Feral 2091. 2-year LPing anniversary, a look back part 1. So first of all, congratulations to him for doing LPs for 2 years. In this video, he basically looks back at the LPs he's done over the 2 years, and how he basically didn't think he would do it this long, but he is. So check it out. Next up is BroomStickReviews, Resident Evil 2 music video. So if you want to see a video with music in it showing clips of Resident Evil 2, check it out. I know that game is a lot of people's favorite Resident Evil game. Next up is GamezOfWar, Generations of Sonic. So first of all, you should just see this video alone for the eBay bidding between GamezOfWar and Pete Dorr. It's pretty funny. And then he goes through all, basically through the history of Sonic games. Really cool. And last but not least, EquilibriumGaming's YouTube Halloween 2011 viral tag, which I have been tagged for this video. And basically what the tag is, basically you have 24 hours to tag somebody else with this video or else you're going to die. It's just a fun little thing. If you watch the video, it is a very creepy video with clips from past horror movies. So if you're interested, check that out. So let's get to comments from YouTube Gaming Community number 129. The first one is from One Tuna Fish, and he says, "Sometimes I wish this current console generation would implode and start over. We have to put up with so much crap from game developers / producers. Gamers have never been so disrespected by the industry. I'm 36 and have been a gamer all my life. Perhaps the younger generation doesn't know anything else and are happy with the current situation, but for me this feels like the dark age of gaming." Now let me say this. To me it's almost like a step between one generation to the next. Okay, so Microsoft has figured out Xbox Live. To me, the full fruition of that live thing will be next generation. Sony's kind of figured out the problem with their PlayStation, so to me, the full thing of them will be next generation. And Nintendo, I think the step they originally wanted to take with the Wii, but they're kind of scared, will be in the next generation. I do not know if they solved their problem or not. But the truth of the matter is, this almost seems like a step over generation to me. And I don't mean the games aren't good. That when it comes to the people who made the systems, that they started off with this, but they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they finally figured out what they wanted to do, and they when it was almost over. Online, we are in the very early ages of online gaming. PC has been doing it for a while, but we're all still in the early ages of online gaming. A lot of developers and producers don't know what to do with online gaming. Should the whole game be online? Should it not? Is the game basically going to be a shell on your computer where you play the whole thing online or not? I mean, they're trying to figure out what the gamer wants. They're trying to figure out what they want. At the same time, they want to do cool stuff, but they're not sure if it's going to fly. And you're also dealing with a generation where the cost of games are extraordinarily high to make. That's why if we're not going to have a big leap this next generation. The cost too much. It'll be interesting, because if Nintendo keeps their system where it's as powerful or close to being powerful as the other two, it'll be interesting how that plays out next generation. But I think I understand, because for some reason the next generation and that were more fun, and this one doesn't seem that. I don't know why. So next up is Crow111, and he had a really, really long comment, and it was, "It's probably just me, but I feel that today's game consoles are entirely too dependent on the internet. In previous console generations, they had to get the game working correctly when the game was released, because if it wasn't, those glitches and bugs were in that game forever, unless they released a new revision of the game. Nowadays, it seems like they forgo some of the quality control in order to meet deadlines, knowing that they'll fix it after it's released via a patch. If they buy a game maybe a year after it's been released, you won't get to play it right away when you plug it in the system, because you're going to have to wait for all the patches and updates that have come out in that year to download and install before you can even start enjoying the game. To me, this kind of defeats the purpose of having a dedicated gaming console versus a PC, since a game console is supposed to be a simple, quick way to play games." And I will agree with a lot of what he says. Here's the thing. Imagine somebody playing this after this generation's gone. A lot of these games that are broken. They're going to be broken. You can't fix them. You can't get the patches. Okay? That's where the difference in these games are going to be. The other thing that gamers have kind of attached themselves to is they play a game and they say, wow, that game kind of has potential. I don't like this game, but I'm going to buy it anyway because I hope they make a sequel and do the full thing. The gamers have kind of given up what they expect in a game, and they've kind of just accepted the way it is. That's part of the problem. Gamers are part of the problem. What's the difference between a PC and a console game today? If you take out the mouse and keyboard, the controls, there isn't any. You're going to tell me, okay, well, PC's more graphically. Okay, great. It's graphically better, but it's still the same essence of a game. They constantly have to be patched. You don't know if you're going to be able to get in line. You don't know if the game's not broken. You don't know if the game's not buggy. Because the gamers have allowed this to happen, where they know they could patch the game. The gamers say, oh, yeah, I'll wait for the patch. They'll fix it. And they're also rushing these deadlines. They have teams of hundreds of people working on these games, like Assassin's Creed, who are in different places. They do their own thing. They throw the game together, and ultimately they don't know how it's going to work until it's released. It's also to be honest, we're in that, like I said before, we're in that step over generation. You know, kind of like how gaming tried FMB and realized it didn't work. We're in that step over generation where they're trying a lot of things, and some of the things they try now, they're going to find out, well, this doesn't really work long term. So STO0480408471 said, "This happened to me with Ghostbusters, a video game, and I loved playing it in the main game and such, but when I tried to continue my last save game, it would only let me start a new game, and I had to look on the internet to find out that I had to reload the game after the game had been out its first day. The makers of the game should have picked up on this and patched it, and I have only seen one, and it still does fix the game's menus." Now, again, this is a problem with a lot of games. When they patch it, you could lose your save. Again, I know what people are going to say, and this is where the developers are going to go down that online road. Well, if we saved your save online, you wouldn't lose your save. Every game developer is going to slowly start to find a way to make you have stuff online because they want to take you there. And this is where I think the ultimate difference between a game developer publisher and a gamer is. A game developer publisher wants everything online. A gamer does not. We have a separation right now between the people who make the games and the people who play the games. How's that ultimately going to play out? I don't know. Anyway, that's all that counts for this video. I'm sure this video ran really long, and I apologize. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, but the next video will be on Tuesday, and then the video on that will be on Friday. So guys, I will talk to you then. I will see you guys soon.